All right, everybody, welcome back. If you watched my last bike fix video, that was the Honda Shadow that's sitting back here. Hopefully that one's getting out of here pretty soon. But as soon as I finished that one, I brought this one back in. This is a 1999 Honda Valkyrie. It has not run or moved in 13 years up until it came here. Still hasn't run, has no battery in it, but it's here now, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to get this thing going. I might keep this one for a little bit and ride it around. We'll see. Or who knows? If someone I know is interested in a Valkyrie, maybe they'll get it. But we know some issues with it already, so it's going to be a longer project. It's a bigger bike. It's got some more things that can go wrong with it. But we're going to get into it. And first, let's talk about what we know is wrong with it, and we'll start breaking it down, and we'll see what else we find along the way. So let's get to it. All right, so this bike has a very similar story to the Shadow we just finished, and you might have seen in some other videos. In fact, it's the same owner. I guess you'd say this is the big brother bike to the Shadow that's over here. So some good news with that is we know that this bike was well cared for before it was parked. Like I said before, it was parked 13 years ago, and 2013 was the last title sticker on it. Something we know from the owner is it has a fuel leak, whether that's from this aftermarket fuel shutoff or the fuel rails that are between the 6 carb system, so 3 on this side, 3 on that side. This is a 1520 cc engine. So we're going to take these carbs all off pretty much no matter what, because we want to make sure that they're not gunked up inside like we found on the Shadow. We're going to pull all the spark plugs and make sure that no fuel leaked down or out into the cylinder heads here. With this not being a V-twin engine and being a horizontal engine, it is possible that gas got into the cylinders, and we don't want to hydrolock it when we try to start it. That would be bad. So we know those are things we got to check for. Other things that we have looked at and found is the front brakes are bound up, so it doesn't really roll very well, and the throttle is also bound up on something. It could be that there's no fluid in this reservoir for one of the brake calipers. Could be something else. So we're gonna have to look into all these calipers, make sure the brakes work. That's very important. We did put a jump pack on the battery terminals and found that all this LCDs work and display well. The radio controls all work, lights, horn, everything's good there. The 4 speakers, 2 up here and 2 on the back, all function. So that's some good news out of this. We checked the fluids. It has oil in it. There's still some coolant in it, so that hasn't seemed to leak out yet, although we are going to change all of that. Something different about this bigger bike is this is a shaft driven bike, so we'll have to check the gear oil back here. That Shadow is chain driven. My Shadow is shaft driven, so we are familiar with that, but we'll check that out. So the next thing, what we're going to have to do here and what we're going to get started on next is getting all of these plastic cowlings off, the gas tank, the seat. We're going to get the saddlebags off the back here. See about removing this whole bag in the back, in the rear seat, and just start getting access to it and getting it torn down. So let's start doing that, and we will see where we get. Okay, one thing in the time lapse, you might have seen me fumbling around over here. I was trying to take this cover off just for better access to here. There's a bolt up top here, there's one in the front, but there's one underneath here. So you got to take this valve cover off to get to it. So we're not going to get into that just yet, but we will get those off at some point. So I switched to move over to the air box, and we had a friend living in here. So a lot of mouse food or mouse poison maybe in here. Let's see if there's anything on the underside of here. Just try not to get those pellets to fall in. If they do, it's not the end of the world. All right, so we're clean on that side, which makes sense because it didn't eat through the filter here. But we're gonna need a new filter, looks like, or at least clean this one out. Filter actually looks pretty clean, other than the pantry that's left on the front side. So we're gonna continue to get this box out so we can get more access to the bottom, but just wanted to stop and show you what we found so far. So some funny things here. First off, we got the air box off. To do so, we had to take this coil pack and get that off. Just made it easier to pull out. One of the interesting things we found here is this fuel tee is disconnected, right? I don't know if it came off whenever we were pulling the tank off, or if it's been like this. This is the tee that splits the feed each bank of each side of the carburetor. So there's three on this side and three on this side over here. It does look pretty dry in there, so I don't know if it's been off or just because there's been no gas flowing through here. But man, that would be a really easy fix if it was the culprit of our fuel leak. They said the fuel leak was pretty strong, so maybe that's it. We're still gonna check these fuel rails down here. There should be a little gasket in here, and if we break these apart, we'll see that. We may just fill these lines with fuel and make sure that they don't leak and try to keep them together. Additionally, you can see back here, this is where the throttle linkage connects. If you see, try to move the throttle here, you can see the cable moving, but there is no movement down there. So something's bound up. Maybe it's just stuck, or maybe, I don't know. We're going to take the carbs off. We're going to take all this apart. We're going to find out. Um, you can see, we still got a couple pellets up here. There's one down here from our mouse friend, but we'll get those cleaned up. Next thing to do is to get these um, like fairings removed, and to do that, we got to take the valve covers off. Once this is all out of place, we'll have much more room to remove the carburetors and take those out as one piece. What comes along with them is this um, solenoid here, this air solenoid. So there's a little vacuum line that actuates it, and it goes down, and I believe it provides air to the exhaust, I believe, or some portion of the bottom of that. And what that is this is normally open, but when you let off the throttle, it closes, and that kind of prevents any backfiring. So we're gonna disconnect the hoses down here. This will come off as one piece with the brackets for the carburetors. So like I said, we're gonna get these valve covers taken off, and we'll see if we can get these fairings off, and then the carbs will be next. Okay, so we got to take this valve cover off. Inside each of the hex bolts here, or Allen key bolts, is this little rubber grommet piece. It's partially for looks and partially for gunk to not get in there. So I've already cracked these loose. We're just going to get these off real fast. And the whole reason we're taking this valve cover off is to get to the bolt or screw that's holding on this fairing, because this fairing is in our way. It's just going to be easier to have it off when we go to take the carbs out and give us just a tiny bit more clearance. So we got to get these um, bolts off, which they have a little bit of oil residue on them, which is great. That means, it's not totally dry in there. There's not going to be any rust in there. And that oil was moving in this engine and, laid where it should. So we'll get this off, and there's not going to be any oil that comes out of here, right? This is not where the oil sits. When the engine's off, all the oil runs down to the bottom. So, if there is a large collection of oil in here, we might have an issue, but a couple little drops here and there won't be bad, especially on this side of the engine, actually, because, the bike naturally leans this way. So we'll expect a couple drops of oil. And with that, we want to make sure we get this valve cover off very carefully, right? There's a gasket in here that we want to try to protect and reuse. It's like a $60 gasket or something like that. So if we can not reuse it or not have to buy a new one, that would be awesome. And before we do that, though, we got to take this little side plate off and get its gasket off. So get this plate off real fast, and then we will be in good shape to crack this panel off. And we got to be careful taking this off too, because there's a little side gasket here that we want to also protect. Because I believe this gasket and this gasket come together as one, like when you purchase it. So if I ruin this little one, I'm going to be buying the bigger one no matter what. But it came off great, and it looks like it's in great shape too. So as always, we're going to thread these back just so they don't get lost. We know where they came from. And now let's work on popping this off. It should just come right off. Just got to be careful. Oh, that was easier than I expected. Oh, look at us go. We just got to make sure we don't tear away anything. There's a little bit of oil left in this. That's okay. A little bit of dark oil, but that's all right. Our main goal that we're concerned about right now is pulling away this gasket without damaging it. So far, so good. Get around to this side. Just work it off gently. And we're in good shape. This gasket looks great. Doesn't look stretched out. The ridges all here in the bottom. Sorry, let me bring this up here. All these ridges in the gasket look good. There's no tears. There's no stress on this. So that's all very good news. So I'm just going to throw these bolts back in this head cover. Not going to hurt it. It's fine. Wipe up some of the oil. And then let's get to taking this off. To do that, like I said, we have these couple screws. There's one on the top here we had already loosened up before we found we need to take the valve cover off. There's one in the front here. This is the longer one. These bolts are not the same size. I'm sorry, the top and the front are the shorter ones. The longer one is here on this bottom corner. It's got a longer way to go through the fairing. Let me get that off. And then we get to the one that we couldn't reach the entire time, which is right under here. And we want to be careful when we do this one. Actually, let me grab something because we don't want that to fall and go down into our valve valley. All right. should be loose enough. We can do the rest by twirling it with our fingers. So once this is off, like I said, we're going to have all that clearance that we want for getting to the carburetor. It will also give us better access to along this where this gasket sits to help, you know, clean it up a little bit. So let's see. All right, what am I missing? Okay, I don't know why this one gave me the fits, but it was kind of tagged up on something. But I got it loosened up from around there. Just got to work it and be careful, right? And then this comes off and around and out. It was stuck on this piece of plastic underneath, right? I knew it wasn't connected to anything else, but I wanted to be careful and not damage it. So anyway, we got that off. Great. Okay, so next thing to do is we have to take this cover and this cover off. This one is secured by, it's a short cover. The other side's longer. These two bolts, which are also holding these down tubes between the carburetor and the cylinder head. So these are 1, 2, 3 Phillips screws. Let's do those first. We got this valley covered up so we don't accidentally drop anything in there and have the worst day of our lives. So keeping that clear. You know, maybe there's an easier way, or maybe there's a way to do it without taking the covers off, but personally I think it's the best way because those fairings that were up front just, they take up so much space. And you know, you saw on the first bike how difficult it can be to get the carbs out from underneath the middle of this bike. So the more room, the better. So get this cover off, and then underneath this cover, what we're going to find back here. So two things. The throttle adjustment is down under here. I'll show you guys here in a second. Actually, I'll just move you now. So down under here is where the throttle adjustment is. So you got to make all those adjustments before you seal this back up. But also the throttle cable is connected right here. So that is really locked up. So we got to figure out why that's locked up. So first, that's a project for once we get this off the bike. So let's set you guys back down. Let's put these threads back on so we don't, or these bolts back on so we don't lose them. They don't fall into anything. This is the choke cable coming from the other side. So I'll show you real quick how we take that off when we do the other side. I won't show you the whole process, but this rack here is what actuates the choke for each individual carburetor. It's pretty cool. This bike has 6 carburetors, 1 for each cylinder. I mean, obviously there's typically on a motorcycle a carb for each cylinder, but it's just neat that there's so many. I guess that also makes it tricky, but I guess that's the fun of it. So loosen these 2 bolts and this little shield should come off. And we got to be careful because I'm pretty sure there's a little washer underneath here that we don't want to lose or drop, and that's part of the reason for our cover over the valves, or since we have a lack of a cover over the valves, our towel barrier. Yeah, so you can see this tiny little washer. I think that usually sits on the underside of it because it didn't come out with this other bolt. If that were to fall in there, we would have a wonderful time trying to get it out. And actually, I'm just going to I see this washer here, so I'm just gonna grab it before it can take a journey that we wish it not to go on. So this just kind of, you know, force the top of the boot back in, and then there's a track that's wide enough for the cable portion of it, and then we pull the boot and that comes off. So we're all loosened up there, and now we can proceed to take the rest of these off and loosen up these. And once we get those loose, we can do the same thing on the other side, and our carburetor will be almost free from its shackles. There's a couple more fittings in the middle, and like I said before, we have to get those hose clamps loosened up so that all comes out as one piece. So get these really, really loose, pretty much as loose as they can go, give you all the space you need. I'm sure we're gonna have to spray these and work them a little bit. Let's see here. Get this boot out of the way, shorten this up, and I believe it's a 10 millimeter. It's not a 10 millimeter. That means it's probably an 8 millimeter. Let's see if an 8 fits on there. Eight millimeter it is. Okay, let's see if we can get this socket back there. If not, we're gonna have to give it a wrench. And it looks like it's gonna be a wrench. Just kidding, we're gonna make this socket work. So let's see if we can make it tall enough that it fits in there. There we go. Oh, they're not even that tight. Perfect. You just gotta crack them loose. Evidently my 8 millimeter wrench has gone on a journey, so work with what we got. Oh, also, I forgot to grab this. This slid off whenever we took it off. This is just another piece of the cover. That one's loose. That one's loose. I can't get that one loose. So now we can work these off. So we're gonna go get all these bolts off and do the same thing on the other side. And then we will get this carburetor on its way out. So I'll show you taking off the bolts on the other side. Once we get them all off, I'll show you us working getting this out, and then well, before we do that, the middle, and then we'll get it out of there. So I'll probably get all these bolts out and get everything loose, and then wrap it up for the day, and then we'll work on actually pulling this off here in another day. So it'll be another day for me, and it'll be another minute for you. See you in a minute. Okay, real quick, I'll show you on this side. We took the covers off already. This is the choke cable, which moves up top, but this rack right here is supposed to slide back and forth to actuate the choke. And I mean, I'm physically like forcing it to do that, right? So it doesn't really want to move. And then this cable here goes to the other side. This one can stay attached because it's going to come off with this whole carb set. But this one here, we just gotta get this thread out, or this knot off the thread, I should say. Once that's loose, this allows us to pull enough to get this thread out of the little bracket here. Then we can bring over and kind of force this gate over a little bit and get this out. So now the throttle or the choke cable is disconnected, and that is one more piece that is free from the carb. So like we did on the other side, we're going to get all 2, 4, 6 of these bolts out, and that will allow us to get the carb off. And then also, obviously, like we did on the other side, we got to loosen all of these grips, and the carb should pop off after we take 2 more bolts out of the middle there. In here, if you can see, down here is a clip, and then there's another clip up here. I already moved both of these clips up, but we're just gonna work what we need to do, and I'm gonna put the phone down and stop recording and do this just because it's gonna be easier. So we're gonna work these 2 hoses off of the bottom there, and then that is going to free up the entire carb. The next thing we need to do is maybe see about getting this plastic piece out of the way if we can. It might just free up a little bit of space for us, because it has this big knuckle that comes in the front between here. It's going to be kind of hard to work the carbs around. So let's get these loose, and then I'm going to pull this out if I can, and then the carbs should come right out. Okay, so like I said, we got to get the throttle off. So this is just a 10 millimeter wrench. If we can get this in here, we should be able to crack this loose. So there's 2 sides of it, obviously. So get this side loosened up, get the cable out from under here, and then do the back side. There we go, got that loose. Should be plenty of cable to come and work around. Let's see here. Get this with a hook. It's kind of hard to push the cable, but get this pulled out. There we go. Bunch of slack on the front here. Slides right out. That's one of them free. Stuff between. There we go. Let's grab that 10 mil again. Loosen up this bottom lock nut. Thread it loose, get some space. Free up the cable. Reach around under here. Oh, almost had it. Slide it on out, and there we go. So throttle is now out and free. You can pull this up out of the way. So we're sitting on the right side of the bike. To better get this carb out, because we're going to pull the carb out from the left side and work it out that way. We're going to take the down tubes or pipes between the carburetor and the cylinder head out. So we got these all loosened up. These are all disconnected from before. So we should be able to just pop these off. Yep. And this one still has the vacuum line connected to it, that center one. We'll take care of that in a second. And this one off. So only the center ones have it. They're all the same part, but the 2 ends are blocked off. So now that we have this free, let's grab a wrench real quick. We'll pop this hose off. Get this out of the way, and then we'll plug up these holes just to protect everything, and then we should be able to work the carb out from the other side. Guess you guys don't have a great view, but get this off here in a second, and that should free up a lot of space for us on the carburetor coming out. There we go. All right, so we are going to get this carburetor out today, since I have a little bit of time before I have to leave for this weekend. But I'm going to take this bracket off so we get a little bit more space to work this out. Probably move this coil pack out of the way. So I'm going to jump us into a time lapse, and we're going to get this thing out. So I will see you when we're done. All right, so you saw us, we got the carb out. You see behind me, it's apart. In the next video, we're gonna actually go into taking that apart some more. You can see it is very filthy, and there's some other surprises in there, and we're gonna have to do a little more than we thought originally. So we'll check that in the next one. Hope you enjoyed watching us get it out of this one and all the breakdown of this. So we'll keep at it, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.